That ain't no heat call on a Goodman air handler. We're up in the attic, and pretty nice size attic, easy to get around in, but heat's not working. So indoor unit is not running, outdoor unit's not running. I stopped thermostat in the hallway and took the batteries out of it, put it back on the wall, no display. So I'm assuming we're going to have a blown fuse on this unit and be looking for a low voltage short. But I have to be careful on this particular house because they have kind of a fancy, complex whole house load management system set up on this thing. The guy in our area has, I could have swore he's retired by now, put a lot of those things in. And they tie into everything here. This is part of it. There's a control somewhere in this house. But with the hot water heater, the electric heat strips, anything on the house that pulls a lot of power, this regulates the load in the house and keeps it below a certain. So if something else is, if the heat strips are running on the downstairs unit, it won't let them come on when the upstairs calls, or the combination of different things. You got the stove going, electric. Any combination of things get above a certain load, it won't let anything else come on until that load decreases enough that it will allow. Anyway, we don't mess with it. It's never really been a problem. It's just confusing to figure out how it operates sometimes. But anyway, we'll get this door off. And let's see what we've got in here. So I can already see from here that our fuse right there is blown. I'll reach in there and pull it out. It's a Goodman. I'm gonna guess, I don't know, it could be a pipe rub, wire rub in the outdoor unit, one of the pressure switches, something along those lines. But there's our fuse. As you can see, it is blown. So let's get the meter out and see which side of that terminal in there is our hot wire, or the hot side where the fuse plugs up. We'll see which side's my output, and that's what I'm going to connect my little gator clips to. Of course, I've got to go over here, and I don't know if that little short probe tool is going to be long enough to reach over there, so I may have to put a fuse in it and then jump some stuff out from this side. So there's our R. And that's going to go through this SS2 switch over here, then back through this float switch, and then it's going to connect to all of our other R's, which is right here. So real quick, I need to separate out what I'm looking at before I start. These are going to be my heat strips. To be sure, we hadn't had any heat strips on recently because that's that brown emergency heat that we never use on these Goodmans. So we got G, Y, and then this thing is wired in. There's my reversing valve. It's going straight from the thermostat to the outdoor unit. Okay, let's get a fuse in there. So, I've got a fuse. Put back in there. So, well, you can see the meter right there. So, find a common. Double check. I got 29 volts coming through my fuse. And I have 29 volts right there on my R now. So let's see what we got. So this is going to be Y. Could be something just as simple as a contactor out there on the outdoor unit. We'll find out. So let's start with our Y circuit first and see what happens. So, don't have a short there. Let's try. Of course, they've got this wire nut taped all to pieces for the reversing valve. I tell you, those sequencers are looking a little sketchy. They're rusted pretty good. Let's see, that's going through his thingamadoodle there. And then coming back in. I don't want to mess with that too much. But let's do the reversing valve. Let's check our reversing valve. That shouldn't be the problem. Unless it's blowing the fuse when it goes through defrost cycle and it switches or energizes the reversing valve. And no light, no short. And let me double check and confirm that I am getting my 24 volts to that circuit, which I am. So, no short on Y, no short on O. One thing left. And that's going to be these sequencers. And just because it's not shorting now doesn't mean there's not a wire rub outside. It could be where it just, when the unit's running and a little bit of vibration with the system, that's when you get your wire to trip on you. So let's do these heat strips real quick and see what happens. They're right there. And I have nothing there. So I'm going to disconnect that. And the last one up here is going to be G. So let's energize that real quick. to blow it. So I'm gonna go outside and go through the outdoor unit and see if we got any pinched wires out there anywhere. Alright, so I'm at the outdoor unit, getting the cobwebs out of here. And we're going to check and see if we've got a short and a wire rub somewhere in this thing. So we got the high voltage off. Disconnect this out. And I'm not seeing any signs of an imminent short. Thermostat wiring right here is, this was the one on the outside that would have been rubbing against the door. I'm not seeing a rub in that. I am going to arm the contactor out real quick. Because if it could just be that the contactor's arming low, not necessarily not low enough for an immediate short and fuse pop. It could be a little low. Reading like 6 or 7 or something like that, where it might come on and run a little bit, and then after a little bit of load time it'll pop the fuse. So let's see what that ohms out at real quick. Alright, so that ain't it. We're looking at 17 ohms on the contactor. So that's going to be alright. Could ohm out the reversing valve solenoid, but we'll get this top off and see what kind of wiring we got in there, see if we got a rub. So I don't know how well you can see right there. If you look down there, there's 2 yellow wires coming right across the top of that suction line, or the manifold piping header coming off of the coil. It's real tight there, but it's whitish looking. So I'm wondering if we're going to have a rub right down in there. Let's find out. Got this thing opened up, and look at there. We had 2 rubs right here on the back of these, and then if you look down there, there's 2 more rubs right on that pipe off the back of that one. So I mean, you zip tie the shit out of the wires out here, just pull them right down on top of a refrigerant line. Almost had one right there. So let me get these wires fixed, and we'll turn it on. And oh yeah, I just saw that one. The reversing valve wire. Rubbing through. Gotta love that Goodman quality control. So Got all that cleaned up. I put this zip tie here to try and keep that harness there from laying against that pipe and from laying against the pipe down there for your true suction right there. So that zip tie will kind of hold these harnesses back. I don't know why Goodman runs through here and they take all their wires and strap it to zip tie it to every damn refrigerant line they can get their hands on. This one, these are all bundled together here, so I wrap tape around all of those, and then I wrap some more tape around this refrigerant line, so hopefully if that winds back up over there, it'll, I mean, it's taken this long, but that should make it to the last day that this thing operates anyway. Then the reversing valve, they had the reversing valve wire wrapped around this pipe and then going back down, so I had to kind of bend it back this way and then unplug it and run it back to the other side. So I've got a good gap in there now. My finger can get through there. They had it hanging across there and then coming back at an angle, so it's been sitting in there since day one rubbing like that. So I don't know, man, it's just Goodman. I don't think they practice quality control. I don't even think that's an actual job at Goodman. But anyway, all right guys, let me get the top back on. We'll get this thing running. All right guys, let's see what happens. Old ass disconnect box. So we have a call at the thermostat. The blower is running. Our contactor is pulled in. And let's get this thing on. So we are on. I'm gonna let it run about a minute. And then we're gonna energize the defrost on this. And an easy fix. Wasn't a difficult short to find. You do this long enough with a heat pump, is either your contactor or it's one of these wires rubbing around in the outdoor unit against a refrigerant line. Goodman just happens to be, based on my experience, the worst one at it, because it seems like they take every opportunity to zip tie every bundle of wire in this outdoor unit to every refrigerant line they possibly can. So it is what it is. So we'll let this thing run a minute. You got to get that thing cold enough in there on the coil to close our defrost switch so I can go into a defrost cycle. And it may be stuck closed still from last night. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Nice little hot spot on that board. Yeah, that switch might not be closed yet. Let me check it. So I'm just going to switch this. Okay, so we're ringing through on our defrost switch. So I know it's closed, so this board should be ready to start running a defrost cycle every, what is this one on? This one's on 90, so every 90 minutes of runtime should get a defrost cycle. Let's go up here. We'll put our jumper on our test pin right there. See if this thing will go through a defrost test. There we go. There's our defrost cycle. We'll put that back on the time setting. And then this thing's going to run a quick defrost. The heat strips should be on upstairs. Huh. There we go. Well, I thought we had another problem. I was thinking that fuse popped again. It's just got a long delay when it shuts off and switches. Some do it while it's running, and then they just switch and it never shuts off. This one opens the contactor, and then it's got that quiet right there setting on it, those test pins, and then it'll switch, close the contactor, come back on, run, defrost, and then once it times out, it comes back on in heat. So, all right, guys, looks like it's a success. Like I said, it's a low voltage shorts are, they are what they are. Some are aggravating to deal with, some are simple, but when you've found enough of them, you kind of know the key places to start looking. And with Goodman, it's the wires in the outdoor unit or the contactor. All right, guys, appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.